Hi, students. I am going to read The Dragons of Blueland to you. I realized that we were reading on the banks of Plum Creek before school was shut down, and I would love to finish that. However, I think that would just take too long for me to make that many videos and for you children to watch it for that long. So this was, of course, the next best choice because we read the first two books of the series. Remember, the very first book was called My Father's Dragon. The second book we read was called Elmer and the Dragon. And then, now I'm going to read to you The Dragons of Blueland. I am going to do a quick review of what happened before we got to this part. Oh, by the way, too, I always like to tell you kids the authors and the illustrators. This and the other two books that go with it was written by Ruth Stiles Gannett. And it was her mother-in-law, whose name is Ruth Chrisman Gannett, who did all the wonderful illustrations. So that's nice to see family members go together and team up to make wonderful stories. All right. This is what happened before. Once, a baby dragon flew away from home to ride on a cloud, and he fell off onto a place called Wild Island. He was hurt in one wing so badly that he could not fly back to his cloud. The fierce wild animals of Wild Island tied him to a rope, and when his wing got well, they made him fly them back and forth across a muddy river. An old alley cat, exploring the island, saw the miserable dragon. They became good friends, and she promised to help him escape. When she went home, she told Elmer Elevator, a brave boy of 9, all about the dragon. He set off to the rescue and tricked the wild animals, cutting the dragon's rope just as the animals were about to catch him too. He jumped onto the dragon and off they flew. So that's everything, well, a very short summation of what happened in the first book, My Father's Dragon, which we already read. Now most of this is from book number 2, Elmer and the Dragon. Then Elmer remembered that he'd better start back home to Nevergreen City. The dragon offered to fly him, but a terrible storm forced them down over the ocean. Just by luck, they landed on a sandbar near an island, and when they waded ashore, they found that only canaries lived there. Elmer met an old canary friend who introduced them to the Canary King, King Can the 11th. Roman numerals, X represents 10, and I represents 1. So 10 plus 1 is 11. The king asked if they would dig up an old treasure chest, explaining that he was suffering from the dreadful disease of curiosity, which isn't a disease at all. It's something very, very good, and humans, the more they have it, the better, really. And could not get well until he had seen that treasure. Elmer and the dragon finally found the treasure. Everybody joined in a wonderful celebration, and afterwards, Elmer and the dragon flew off to Nevergreen City. The dragon left his good friend on a wharf and started back to his own home in Blueland. So that's exactly where we're going to start for our next book. That's exactly where it takes off for the Dragons of Blueland, which is, of course, the final book in the series. As you can see, there are 11 chapters, and most of them are not very long, so that's why I'm going to read this instead of On the Banks of Plum Creek. I will do my best to show you the pictures. Also, in your learning packets this week, I provided you with a map of Blueland, and of course, it's also a map of Popsicornia, where Elmer Elevator lives. This part is where the humans live, and this part is where the dragons live in Blueland. Now, it's always fun when you're reading a book, to have a map like this, to follow along in the story, kind of get a sense of. It just makes the story more interesting if you can get a sense of what's going on visually, and what landforms, water forms, and mountains, desert, all that. I think it makes stories much better to be able to follow along. So as we go along, sometimes I'm going to stop and look at this. If you'd like, you can just look at it the whole time that I'm reading to you. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, though, and start a new video, and each chapter will be a different video, so we can chop it up a little bit. All right? See you in a few minutes.